Hey guys, this is Slushy Models, and today I wanted to show you how I made this diorama. This isn't really a tutorial, but more so a step-by-step on how I made it, as a lot of the stuff I used I was very new to. I started with cutting a thick foam to the size of the wood that I was using as my base. And it was quite the struggle to cut. And I used tacky glue, or anyways tried, to glue the foam onto my board. And after my patience are running very thin with the glue I haven't used in years, I finally succeeded. I began using leftover pieces of foam to build up different areas to make it more canyon-like. And once I had finished that, I let it dry. In order to make the rocky areas of the canyon, I took aluminum foil, crumpled it up, and then uncrumpled it and put it in this pan in case it ended up making a mess. I then mixed plaster of Paris, which was something I'd never used before, so I was struggling a bit to figure out how much water to add. But once I got it somewhat figured out, I put it on my aluminum foil and spread it out. And then when the majority of it was covered with plaster, I put it aside to dry, and then I could work on the messy part. Carving my base to get the shape I was happy with. And with my track record with a knife, I'm impressed with the fact I didn't cut myself. For this, I feel like it would probably be best just to get a foam cutter. It's probably a lot safer and not nearly as messy. I started building up areas and just having fun with figuring out how I wanted to do that. And of course my glue was making sure I had work for it. This is what the plaster of Paris looked once dried and broken up. And so now I get to add the rock pieces to my diorama. To do this, I just tried to figure out where different pieces looked like they would fit best. I did have to break some pieces to fit better, which is when I learned how hard this stuff can be to break when it's so thick. And now it's finally time to cover this thing up in plaster to cover up the foam and give it a more realistic look. But what I am doing is spreading the plaster out in sections and then taking a cup full of sand and coating the plaster with sand. I put a scrap piece of like a mesh fabric over the cup to filter the sand of debris, and it actually also works well to make the cup act as a shaker. I learned several things during this part of making my diorama. And first of all, put a rubber band or something around the cup to make less of a mess with the sand. Secondly, the plaster gets thick rather quickly, so it's best to make it runnier as it's hard to add water to it. And thirdly, throw the craft stick away. It works fine for flat surfaces, but filling those gaps in the rocky areas is a nightmare. Just use your finger, it works 100 times better. I did use an air duster to remove loose sand before I primed it, and this is what it looks like once I covered the whole thing with plaster of Paris and sand and was primed. And this is what it looked like once I painted the base coat with my airbrush. I painted the rocky areas a more red color and an orangey tan for the smoother areas. Once I had done that, I used watered down dark brown paint and put it over the entire diorama in sections and used a paper towel to wipe it off. This makes the paint only collect in the crevices, and because they're darker, it adds a lot. Unfortunately, I didn't record this because I knew that it would be difficult for me to record. And then I went over the sand areas with my tan paint and the airbrush to make the flat areas look sandy, and used that same tan to dry brush over the entire thing to add and reveal details. Once I had finished all that, I gave it some clear coat and added an epoxy resin river that I had dyed with blue and brown translucent dyes. I then used something to add ripples on the river. I ended up wanting larger ripples than what the stuff could make, so I bought something else that was supposed to do this. And though it started only in the areas where the ripples would be larger, I ended up putting it over the entire river. And now for one of the final touches, some grass patches. I honestly don't really know how to explain this other than taking a clump of the field grass, cutting it to the size I wanted and gluing it in random patches on the diorama. And now it's finally complete.